The night sky over the Red Desert was quiet, but inside the great stone hall of the Varkon clan, everything was burning with anger. Torches shook on the walls as warriors shouted, elders whispered, and heavy drums echoed like thunder. In the center of the hall stood Lyra, a young alien girl with silver eyes and thin, glowing marks on her skin. Her wrists were tied with rough ropes, and dust covered her face. She looked small and weak in front of the tall warriors around her. But her eyes still showed a brave fire. Today was the marriage ceremony she never wanted. The clan leader had chosen her to be the honor bride for his oldest son, a cruel warrior who treated everyone like tools. Lyra never loved him. She feared him, and she knew the clan punished girls who said no. But she refused anyway. She stood before the clan, lifted her chin, and said, "I do not accept him." The hall froze for a moment. Then the shouting began. Warriors stepped forward. Elders called her ungrateful. The leader's son pointed at her and laughed, saying she was too weak to be a bride anyway. Everyone treated her like a broken thing. Lyra felt her heart shake, but she didn't take her words back. She knew refusing meant death, but she refused anyway. The clan leader rose from his seat. His armor was dark red, and his voice shook the ground when he spoke. He walked toward Lyra slowly, like a giant shadow moving across her only light. He said, "If you refuse the honor of this marriage, then you do not deserve to live in this clan." He turned to his guards and ordered, "Take her away." 2 warriors grabbed Lyra and dragged her outside the hall. She tried to keep her balance, but her legs shook. People threw sand at her. Mothers pulled their children away as if she carried a disease. Teens whispered that she was a curse. Lyra felt each word like a knife. The guards pushed her toward the edge of the desert. The wind blew hard. Sand stung her eyes. She could feel the fear rise inside her chest. She wanted to cry, but she held her tears back. She whispered to herself, "I will not break." They reached an old pit at the edge of the desert. It was deep, dark, and filled with broken bones of desert animals. Some girls before her had been pushed into this same place. Lyra tried to stand tall, even though her legs trembled. She asked, "Is this really necessary?" The guard smirked and answered, "This is mercy. Usually, we do worse." Before she could say anything more, they shoved her forward. She fell into the pit and hit the ground hard. Pain shot through her leg, and she screamed, but her voice was drowned by the wind. When she looked up, the guards were already walking away. No one cared. No one looked back. The clan torches got smaller and smaller until she was surrounded by darkness. She tried to move her leg, but it felt wrong. Broken. She tried to climb, but the pit walls were too steep. The desert was silent for a moment, then she heard it. A soft, slow hiss. Something big moved in the sand outside the pit. Lyra pressed her back against the wall. She could feel her heartbeat pounding against her ribs. A pair of glowing yellow eyes appeared at the top of the pit, staring down at her like a hungry shadow. She whispered, "Please." "No." But the creature answered with a low growl. Another set of eyes appeared beside it. Then another. The desert beasts had come. They moved slowly, enjoying the fear they caused. Lyra knew they waited for the right moment to jump. She tried calling for help, even though she knew no one from her clan would return for her. Her voice shook as she shouted into the night, "Help, somebody, please." But she wasn't the only one hearing the desert tonight, far above the sand. A human patrol craft was flying on a silent route. Inside, Sergeant Ryan Carter, a human soldier with a scar on his cheek and tired eyes, picked up a strange, weak distress signal. It didn't match any known beacon. He frowned, leaned closer to the screen, and whispered, "What are you?" Against his orders, he turned the ship toward the source. He landed near the pit just as one of the beasts jumped. Lyra closed her eyes. She thought it was the end, but suddenly a strong human hand grabbed the creature mid-air, slammed it to the ground, and stood between her and death. When Lyra opened her eyes, she saw a stranger with human armor, bruised fists, and a burning look of determination. Ryan said only one thing: "You're not dying tonight." The moment Ryan slammed the desert beast to the ground, the entire pit seemed to shake. Lyra stared at him in shock. She had heard stories about humans, cold, heartless, violent creatures who only cared about themselves. But the man standing before her did not match those stories at all. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, his face showed concern, and his eyes kept scanning the shadows, ready for another attack. Ryan didn't waste time. He leaned closer to her and asked softly, "Can you move?" Lyra shook her head. "My leg. It's broken." He glanced down, his jaw tightening. "All right. I'm getting you out of here." Before she could object, Ryan picked her up gently, as if she weighed nothing, as if she mattered. The warmth of his armor touched her cold skin. But the comfort didn't last long. Loud hissing echoed through the desert again. At least 4 beasts circled the pit now, claws scratching the sand. Hungry for the fallen girl, Ryan climbed up the wall of the pit with Lyra in his arms. His boots slipped once, but he didn't let her fall. When he reached the top, he placed her down carefully behind a rock and whispered, "Stay low." A beast leaped toward them. Ryan turned quickly and kicked it away. Another one charged from the side, and he swung his arm like a hammer, knocking it back. Lyra watched with wide eyes. A human, just one man fighting alone in a place where even strong alien warriors feared to walk. He moved like someone who had done this many times before, like a man who had no fear left in him. But more beasts appeared from the dunes. Their eyes glowed and their tails lashed the sand. Ryan knew he couldn't fight all of them while carrying an injured girl. He grabbed Lyra again and whispered urgently, "Hold on to me." She hesitated for a second, but something inside her told her to trust him. She wrapped her arms around his neck. He ran through the sand, dodging beasts and staying low. One creature almost caught his leg. Another jumped from behind. Ryan fired a small shock pistol, hitting the beast in the chest. Sparks lit the night. The creature collapsed, growling. Lyra's heart pounded. She had never seen someone risk so much for her someone who didn't even know her name. Ryan reached his ship, a compact human patrol cruiser shaped like a dark blade. The back door slid open automatically. He placed Lyra inside and quickly shut the ramp. The sound of claws clawing at metal echoed outside. Ryan jumped into the pilot's seat. "Stay awake," he told her. "We're leaving." The engines roared. Sand swirled into a storm as the ship lifted off. The beasts screamed below, but the cruiser shot upward, disappearing into the dark sky. Inside the ship, everything felt different, safe, warm, and filled with strange human lights. Lyra lay on the bench, holding her injured leg. Ryan knelt beside her, opening a metal kit and scanning her leg with a medical tool. "You saved me," she whispered weakly. Ryan smiled a little. "I couldn't just watch you die." Her eyes softened. "My clan would have." Ryan paused, then asked carefully, "Why did they abandon you?" Lyra closed her eyes. Pain not from her leg, but from memories washed over her. "I refused a marriage. Their tradition says refusal is dishonor. They threw me into the desert to die." Ryan's fists tightened. "That's not tradition. That's cruelty." Lyra looked at him, confused. "Why are you helping me? Humans don't help aliens." Ryan shook his head. "Who told you that?" "My clan," she whispered. "They said humans destroy anything they touch. They said you are monsters." Ryan laughed softly, but there was sadness in his voice. I'm no monster, just a soldier trying to do the right thing. Before Lyra could answer, the ship's screens flashed red. Ryan turned quickly. Warning: unidentified vessels detected. Approaching fast. He cursed under his breath. Your clan. Already. Lyra's eyes widened. They will chase me. They cannot accept my refusal. They want me dead, so no other girl follows my example. Ryan switched the controls to high alert. Well, they'll have to get through me first. Lyra stared at him. No one had ever said something like that for her. Not her clan. Not her family. Not even her mother before she died. Ryan locked the shields and set the engines to evasive mode. Bright lights appeared outside the window alien hunter ships. Lyra whispered, trembling, "They will kill you too." Ryan didn't look away from the controls. Then they'll learn something today. What? She asked softly. That humans don't abandon people. The hunter ships fired their first shot. The cruiser shook violently. Alarms screamed inside, and thus began a chase that neither Lyra nor Ryan would ever forget. The human cruiser shook violently as the first blast from the hunter ships hit its shields. Lyra grabbed the seat handles to stop herself from falling. Ryan tightened his grip on the controls. Eyes sharp, jaw tense. The calm he had shown in the desert was gone. Now he moved like a soldier in full survival mode. Bright red warning lights flashed across the cockpit. Multiple ships detected. 3. No, 4. The ship's AI voice echoed through the cabin. Lyra's breath trembled. It's them. My clan sent the hunters. Ryan didn't look away from the screen. Because you refused a marriage? No, she whispered, lowering her eyes. Because I embarrassed them. If I live, other girls might refuse too. They must show the clan they still have power, even if they kill me for it. Ryan clicked a switch, activating the ship's emergency boosters. Well, they're going to have a problem today. The cruiser shot forward, weaving through the air. Hunter ships followed like angry shadows, sharp and deadly. Their engines glowed with tribal symbols that Lyra recognized immediately. She shivered at the sight. Those ships had chased and killed people stronger than her. One hunter fired another blast. It skimmed past the cruiser, sending sparks and flames across the wings. The cockpit shook again. Lyra looked at Ryan. Why don't you leave me? If they want me, you can escape. Ryan almost laughed. Kid, I didn't rescue you just to drop you off in space. I'm nothing to you, she whispered. You're someone who needed help. That's enough. His voice was steady like he meant every word. The cruiser dove into a thick field of floating red dust, remnants of a destroyed moon. The dust cloud created static on the radar. Ryan lowered the ship, trying to hide the heat signature, but the hunters weren't fooled. They fired wildly into the red mist. Bright beams lit the cloud like lightning. The next blast hit hard. Alarms screamed again. Shields down to 32%, the AI warned. Lyra flinched. You can't fight them all. Maybe not, Ryan admitted. But we're not dying here. He pulled the ship upward, shooting out of the dust field at maximum speed. The hunters followed instantly. They were trained to chase until their prey could no longer run. Ryan switched on the long-range scanners. Nearest human outpost is 6 minutes away. 6 minutes. Lyra's voice cracked. We won't survive for 6 minutes. Ryan smirked. Then we'll survive for 7. The hunter ships closed in, firing non-stop. The cruiser jerked with each hit. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Lyra held onto the bench with both hands, her injured leg throbbing in pain. Ryan pressed a button on the panel. Hold tight. What are you doing? Before she finished, the cruiser flipped upside down and spun sharply. The sudden motion slammed Lyra against the seat. One hunter's ship overshot its path and shot past them, missing its target by inches. Ryan brought the cruiser back around and fired 2 small EMP bursts. They hit the hunter ship's engines. It sputtered, lost control, and spiraled down into the dust cloud below. "One down," Ryan said. Lyra blinked. "Humans fight like this." Ryan smiled. "Only on bad days." But the victory didn't last. The remaining 3 ships changed formation. They spread out, surrounding the cruiser. Lyra recognized the pattern. "They're preparing the binding net." She gasped. "It traps ships. You can't escape once caught." Ryan cursed. "They really want you dead." He pulled the ship lower, flying close to the surface of a giant rocky moon. Sharp stone pillars jutted out like spears. The cruiser dodged between them, twisting and sliding through narrow gaps. Lyra held her breath. "You'll crash." Ryan shook his head. "Only if I miss." The hunters followed, their ships slicing through the pillars like knives through cloth. Ryan narrowly avoided a massive boulder. But the impact of the hunter's shots still shook the ship. The AI reported shields at 14%. Lyra whispered softly, "Ryan?" "I'm scared." He didn't look back, but his voice softened. "No. But I won't let them take you." That promise settled inside her heart like a warm flame. A loud alarm beeped. The human outpost finally appeared on the screen, a small structure built into an asteroid side. "We're almost there," Ryan shouted. "Hold on." But before he could reach the outpost, a hunter ship rammed them from behind. The cruiser spun out of control. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Ryan tried to stabilize the ship, but it wasn't enough. The cruiser crashed through the outpost's outer gate, scraping metal and tearing through the docking floor. Sparks and smoke burst around them. Finally, the ship skidded to a stop. Silence fell heavy, painful silence. Ryan coughed and unbuckled himself. He looked back at Lyra, whose eyes were filled with fear and guilt. "You okay?" he asked gently. She nodded weakly. "I didn't want to bring danger to you." Ryan smirked despite the chaos. Too late for that. But outside the broken ship, engines roared again. The hunters had arrived. The outpost was no longer safe. The war for Lyra had only just begun. Smoke filled the docking bay as Ryan forced the cruiser's door open. Metal scraped, sparks flew, and thick gray air made it hard to breathe. Lyra covered her mouth and coughed weakly. Her leg throbbed and her eyes burned from the smoke, but the fear inside her was stronger. Ryan reached for her. "We need to move. Now." She nodded, though every inch of her body hurt. He lifted her into his arms before she could protest. His armor was dented, stained with dust and blood. But his hold was steady like he had carried wounded people many times before. Outside the wrecked ship, the outpost lights flickered. The alarms blared with a sharp, repeating tone. Red emergency lamps cast long shadows across the walls. The whole place seemed ready to collapse. Lyra whispered, "Are we safe?" Ryan didn't answer. He didn't want to lie. Heavy footsteps echoed behind them. Hunter ships landed outside the broken gate, their engines roaring like angry beasts. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She recognized the sound. Her clan warriors were her Rand. They never left. Without finishing their mission, Ryan hurried down a hallway that shook with every explosion outside. "There's an escape tunnel in the lower level," he said. "If we reach it, we can disappear before they surround us." "But your people," Lyra started. "This outpost is unmanned," he replied quickly. "No one else is here." That eased her heart a little, until another explosion hit the building and a piece of the ceiling crashed behind them. Ryan glanced back, then sped up. He reached the elevator, but its lights were dead. The crash had cut the power. He cursed under his breath and kicked open a maintenance ladder hatch instead. "You think you can climb?" he asked. She looked at the ladder, then at her broken leg. "Not fast enough." Ryan nodded once. "Then hold on to me." He secured her arms around his neck and began climbing down with one arm while holding the ladder with the other. Every movement was slow and dangerous. Dust fell on them. The metal shook. Lyra pressed her face against his shoulder, terrified he would fall. Halfway down, a new sound hit their ears, the sharp, mechanical clank of hunters entering the outpost. "They're inside," she whispered. Ryan didn't look up. "Then we climb faster." He dropped the last few steps, landing hard but steady. The lower level was darker, colder, and filled with long metal corridors. A dim blue emergency light flickered above them. They weren't alone. A deep growling echoed from the left. Lyra stiffened. Ryan set her down gently against a wall and raised his shock pistol. Aiming at the dark end of the hallway, a group of alien hunters emerged from the shadows, their armor marked with the clan sigil. Their eyes glowed with fury. One of them, bigger, heavier, stepped forward and pointed his spear at Lyra. "There she is," he growled. The dishonored girl. Ryan stepped between them without hesitation. "Come closer," he said, voice low. "See what happens?" The hunters laughed. A human soldier protecting her. How amusing. But when they moved forward, Ryan fired a shock blast. It hit the leading warrior in the chest, sending him crashing into the wall. The others rushed forward instantly. Ryan grabbed Lyra again. "We run. Fighting them all here is suicide." She nodded quickly. He sprinted down the hall, dodging blasts and ducking behind crates. Lyra felt every vibration of running, every breath he took. Her palms tightened around his armor straps. They reached a door, marked Emergency Excavation Tunnel. Ryan punched the control panel, but the door didn't open. "Power is dead," he muttered. "And this door is too thick to break through." Lyra swallowed nervously. "What do we do?" Ryan took a step back, eyes scanning the walls. Then he spotted a ventilation shaft above them. Small, rusty, but large enough for a person. He pointed. "Up there." Lyra's eyes widened. "I can't climb, so I'll push you." She hesitated, but the sound of approaching hunters made the choice for her. Ryan lifted her toward the shaft. She grabbed the edges and pulled herself up with her arms, biting her lip in pain. Once she was inside, she extended her hand to him. "Come," she whispered. Ryan jumped, grabbed the edge, and pulled himself up just as a spear flew past his boot and clattered in the hallway. Inside the vent, it was dark and cramped. Ryan crawled forward, dragging himself inch by inch, while Lyra pushed from behind. The metal groaned under their weight. Shadows from the hunters' torches flashed below them. One wrong move would expose them. Lyra whispered, "Ryan, I'm slowing you down." He answered instantly, "You're alive. That's what matters." They crawled until the vent opened into a small storage room. Ryan dropped down first, then caught Lyra as she slid out. He set her down carefully. Suddenly, a massive explosion shook the whole outpost. The walls trembled. Dust clouded the air. Ryan looked toward the exit. "They're blowing their way in. We need to leave now." He ran to a hidden hatch on the floor. With all his strength, he lifted it open. Cold air rushed up from the tunnel below. "This tunnel leads into the old mining caves," he explained. "Once we get inside, they won't be able to track." U.S. He helped Lyra into the tunnel first. But just as Ryan began climbing down, a shadow appeared above them. A hunter had found them. His spear glowed with deadly light, and he was ready to strike. The hunter's shadow stretched across the storage room floor like a long, sharp blade. Ryan froze halfway down the ladder of the tunnel, one hand gripping the metal, the other reaching for his shock pistol. Lyra's breath caught in her throat as she watched the tall warrior step into the room with slow, confident steps. The hunter's armor was marked with red claws, the symbol of the clan enforcer, the most feared rank among Lyra's people. His eyes glowed cold and cruel. He raised his spear, pointing it at Ryan's head. "You should not interfere in our traditions, human," he growled. "The girl is ours." Ryan didn't blink. "She's with me now." The hunter chuckled, the sound echoing like metal scraping stone. "You cannot protect her. Not from all of us." More shadows appeared behind the first hunter. 3 more warriors entered, their weapons humming with deadly energy. Lyra's heart dropped. She knew them. These were the leader's personal guards, the same ones who dragged her to the desert pit. Lyra felt her hands shake. "Ryan, leave me. If you fight them, you'll die." Ryan looked down at her just one glance, but full of fire. "I'm not leaving you." The lead enforcer stepped forward, spear ready to strike. "Enough talking. The clan will not be shamed by a human." Ryan reacted instantly. He released the ladder, landing hard on the floor, rolling to the side just as the spear stabbed into the metal where his head had been. Sparks flew. Another spear swung at him, and Ryan blocked it with his forearm guard, flipping backward to gain space. "Run!" He shouted to Lyra, but she couldn't. Her leg was broken, and she knew if she ran, Ryan would die alone. The enforcers attacked together. Ryan fought with everything he had, ducking, dodging, using the crates and fallen pipes as cover. He struck one warrior's knee, sending him falling. He slammed another into the wall. His movements were fast, sharp, trained, but the hunters were stronger, bigger, and armed. One spear cut across Ryan's shoulder, tearing his suit. "Blood spilled." Lyra cried out. "Ryan." He didn't stop. He punched the attacker in the jaw, then kicked him down. But the next enforcer grabbed him from behind, lifting him off the ground. Ryan gasped, fighting for breath. The enforcer squeezed tighter. Lyra's hands trembled. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear the battle. She knew the clan's ruthlessness. If Ryan died, they would drag her body back to the leader and announce her death as a victory. She couldn't let it happen. With all her strength, she pulled herself out of the tunnel and grabbed the broken metal pipe near the wall. It was heavy, uneven, and her hands were shaking, but she didn't care. She limped forward, raising the pipe. "Let him go." The enforcers turned toward her, laughing. "A broken girl wants to fight." One mocked. Lyra swung the pipe anyway. It struck the enforcer holding Ryan. He didn't fall, but he stumbled, loosening his grip. Ryan twisted free, grabbed the spear from the ground, and rammed the blunt end into the warrior's stomach. The hunter fell. For a moment, everything stopped. Ryan leaned against a crate, breathing hard. Lyra's chest burned with pain. The enforcer stared at them in disbelief. Then a new voice filled the room, deep, powerful, and cold. "You refuse your marriage." The voice echoed like thunder. Lyra froze. It was the clan leader. He entered through the broken doorway, towering over everyone, his armor lined with gold markings. His eyes were filled with fire and pride and hatred. "You humiliated your clan," he said to Lyra. "You refused your duty. And now you choose to fight beside a human." Lyra swallowed hard. "I choose to live." The leader's face twisted with disgust. "Then you die as a traitor." He raised his giant spear and ran toward her. Ryan moved instantly. He threw himself in front of her just as the leader's spear collided with his chest armor. The force sent Ryan crashing into the wall. Ryan. Lyra screamed. Ryan groaned, trying to stand, but he collapsed again. The leader pointed his spear at Lyra. Any last words, girl? Something inside Lyra snapped. Fear melted into anger. Pain became fire. Her voice rose not weak, not trembling, but strong. Yes, she said. I won't let you kill him. She stepped between Ryan and the leader, standing on one good leg, shaking but unbroken. The leader stared at her in shock. You would die for a human. He snarled. No, she said softly. I would live because of him. My clan never protected me. He did. The clan leader roared in rage and swung his spear downward. But before it could reach Lyra, a loud explosion rocked the room, knocking everyone off balance. Dust filled the air. Lights flickered through the smoke. Heavy footsteps echoed. The younger clan warriors arrived, dozens of them, and several of them were lowering their weapons. At their own leader, their eyes were filled with doubt, fear, and something new. Respect for Lyra, and shock at the human who fought for her. The clan was no longer united. Everything was about to break wide open. Dust hung thick in the air as the younger warriors stepped into the shattered storage room. Their armor glowed with the clan's colors, but their faces carried something Lyra had never seen before: confusion, fear, and doubt. They looked from the injured human soldier to the broken girl standing bravely on one leg, then to their furious leader, whose spear still crackled with energy. The clan leader slammed the bottom of his spear onto the floor, making the whole room vibrate. Stand down, he roared. This girl is a traitor. The human is an intruder. Anyone who blocks my path will share her fate. But no one moved. One of the younger warriors, barely older than Leah, trembled before speaking. Leader, she is hurt. Why must she die? Because she refused her duty, the leader growled. Our tradition demands obedience. Lyra felt a sharp pain in her chest, not from her injuries, but from remembering her mother. Her mother had once whispered to her, "You are not a tool." But the clan had tried to make her one anyway. Ryan, bleeding and barely able to stand, pushed himself closer to Lyra. Tradition, he said in a rough voice. Call it what it is, control. The leader snapped toward him. Silence, human. You know nothing of our ways. Ryan wiped blood from his mouth. I know abuse when I see it. The room went silent. The warriors exchanged glances. The words shook something inside them. No one had ever dared to say it. No one had ever questioned the clan's sacred customs so openly. The leader stepped forward, raising his spear to strike Ryan down once and for all. But Lyra stepped in front of him again. Stop. She yelled louder than she ever thought she could. Her voice echoed through the room, raw with emotion. This is not tradition. This is terror. You use fear to guide us. You use pain to control us. But I refuse to die for your pride. The younger warriors backed away from the leader. The older warriors stiffened, unsure. The leader's face twisted with rage. You refuse a marriage arranged by the clan. You insult our honor. You insult me. Lyra shook her head. Her voice trembled, but it did not break. I refuse a man who beats his wives. I refuse a life of fear. My mother refused to, and she died because of you. A murmur rippled through the room. Several warriors gasped. Others lowered their spears. Eyes widening, the leader's expression shifted. He had not expected her to speak publicly. Ryan looked at Lyra with quiet admiration. She was shaking, but she stood tall. One younger warrior stepped forward. Is this true? Did she speak against her marriage because she feared abuse? The leader snarled, It does not matter. A girl's fear is weakness. Ryan's eyes hardened. Fear isn't weakness. Using it against your own people is. Lyra felt warmth in her chest. No one had ever defended her like this, not even her own clan. Ryan's voice, though weak, carried more power than the leader's shouting. The leader roared and charged forward with his spear aimed at both of them. But something happened he never expected. Half the younger warriors blocked him. Their spears crossed in front of his. Leader 1 said, shaking but brave, killing a girl for refusing marriage. It feels wrong. Another added, if our traditions require this, maybe they must change. A third whispered, we do not want to be monsters. The leader's eyes widened in disbelief. He stepped back like he had been struck. You dare betray your leader? No, the bravest one said. We are protecting our clan. From you? The room trembled again, this time not from battle, but from a storm building outside. The old mining caves shook as thunder echoed. Dust rained from the ceiling. A clan warrior shouted, a sandstorm is coming. A strong one. Ryan swayed on his feet. That storm will bury this outpost. The leader pointed at Lyra with a trembling finger. This is her curse. She brings ruin. But Lyra shook her head. No, this storm brings truth. The first gust tore through the broken wall, throwing everyone off balance. The hunters covered their faces. Ryan grabbed Lyra and shielded her with his body. The storm's roar grew louder, drowning all other sounds. Through the chaos, Lyra shouted, Ryan saved your warriors in the desert. He fought for a girl he did not even know. Has any of you ever seen a human do that? The warriors hesitated. They knew the stories they had always heard. Humans were selfish, violent, heartless. But tonight, they saw a human risk his life again and again for someone he wasn't obligated to protect. Another warrior spoke. Human, why protect her? She is not your clan. Ryan looked at Lyra, then at all of them. Because she deserved a choice. Something every living being should have. Silence cut through the storm. And then, one by one, warriors lowered their weapons. The leader screamed in desperation, You are all fools. The wind hit him hard, knocking him against the wall. His own spear flew from his hand. The storm grew stronger, shaking the ground. Finally, the bravest young warrior looked at Lyra. Your voice. It changed us. Lyra, trembling with emotion, whispered back, Not mine. His too? The clan was no longer one. Tradition cracked. And in the middle of that storm, something new was being born. Hope, you said. The sandstorm howled like a living beast, raging through the shattered outpost. Dust filled the air, the walls shook, and the ground trembled with every gust. Lyra clung to Ryan's arm as the wind pushed them backward. The clan warriors struggled to stay on their feet, shields raised, eyes squinting through the thick storm. The once unbreakable clan now stood divided, some ready to defend their leader, others ready to defend Lyra. The leader staggered toward them, hair whipping wildly in the storm. His voice cracked with rage. You think this storm is a sign? This is punishment for disobedience. Punishment for her. But no one believed him anymore. The younger warriors, the same ones who once obeyed every cruel order, now stepped forward and surrounded Lyra and Ryan, forming a protective circle around them. One warrior lifted his shield to block the flying debris. Another helped Ryan steady himself. A third knelt beside Lyra and whispered, We were blind. Not anymore. The leader screamed in disbelief. You defend a worthless girl. A broken one. A traitor. One warrior answered, voice firm despite the storm. She is stronger than you. She stood against fear. She spoke truth. The leader raised what remained of his broken spear and charged again, but this time 2 warriors grabbed him by the arms. He struggled, but his strength could not match their determination. They pinned him to the wall, the storm pushing against him like a giant hand. Lyra watched with wide eyes. She had never seen anyone speak against him, let alone touch him. For years, he ruled them through terror. Today, that rule crumbled like sand. Ryan leaned against the wall, exhausted, blood dripping from his wounds. "Is it over?" he asked softly. Lyra looked at him, this strange human who had stepped into her life like a storm of his own. She stood on her good leg, wobbling slightly, and moved closer to him. "For us, it is." The leader fought against the warriors holding him. She refused her duty. "Humans are nothing." Uala warrior pressed the leader back firmly. "Enough. We will decide our future without your anger." Another warrior turned to Lyra and bowed his head slightly. "Your voice opened our eyes. We were taught to fear humans. But this human saved your life, and he protected our own when he didn't have to." Lyra looked at Ryan with tears forming. He did. Ryan tried to stand tall, but his body shook. One of the warriors supported him. "Easy, human soldier. You fought well." Ryan chuckled breathlessly. "Didn't plan on fighting a whole clan today?" The storm reached its peak. Wind screamed through the cracks in the walls. Then slowly it began to weaken. The heavy gusts softened. Dust settled on the ground like falling snow. The sky outside shifted from violent red to calm amber. The leader slumped, defeated and silent. The warriors released him, but he did not rise. His power was gone. His tradition of fear was broken. Lyra limped over to Ryan and held his hand. "Come," she whispered. "We need to leave this place." Ryan nodded. "Where do you want to go?" That question hit her heart harder than any blow she had taken. No one had ever asked her that. No one had ever cared what she wanted. She looked around at the warriors, some ashamed, some hopeful, all changed. They stepped aside, giving her a clear path to the exit. One young warrior stepped forward. "Lyra, we will change the traditions." "Because of you." She smiled softly, tears finally falling. "Not because of me alone. Because all of you finally chose to see." The warrior nodded. "You are free." She turned to Ryan. "And you saved me." Again and again. Ryan shrugged lightly. "I didn't save you alone. You fought too. You stood up to a whole clan." Lyra blushed. "Because you believed I could." Together, they walked out of the broken outpost. The air was clear now. The sky stretched wide above them, full of warm colors and quiet promise. A small rescue shuttle from a nearby human patrol base descended through the sky, its lights glowing. Ryan signaled it with one weak arm. The shuttle landed gently on the sand. As the door opened, Ryan helped Lyra inside. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. He strapped her safely into a seat, then sat beside her, breathing slowly, relief finally washing over him. She looked at him shyly. "Ryan, what will happen now?" He smiled softly, tired but sincere. "Anything you want." She hesitated, then whispered, "Can I stay with you?" "I don't want to go back to my clan." Ryan looked into her silver eyes, glowing softly under the shuttle lights. "Then you stay with me." Her heart filled with warmth, deeper than she had ever felt. She had been thrown away, abandoned, left for dead. But a human soldier had given her life back. The shuttle lifted into the sky, leaving the old traditions behind, carrying a broken girl and the man who healed her spirit. And for the first time in her life, Lyra looked toward the stars without fear. Only hope.